Hey everybody, it's your boy SergDragon, and welcome back to another edition of the Heavens Monsters Podcast. With me always is Team Money, His Majesty
King Terence.
There you go. We're going to do the review of Super Showdown from Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. In which case, kickoff was none other than a tag team match between the Usos and the Revival, ultimately ending in the win for the Usos. We then have the bunch of matches here. Let me just go ahead and run it. We would have the Intercontinental Championship match between the Demon Finn Balor defending his title against Andrea Cien Almas. I'll keep calling him that. I don't care what anybody says. And ultimately, the Demon prevails and defends his title. We also have Shane McMahon with the help behind referee's back, not paying attention throughout the match, and especially the key point where he claymored him, run right through poor Roman Reigns, and Shane McMahon just picks up the win right after that. Daggone it.
Shane McMahon always get people to watch his back.
Oh yeah. That's what a boss heel does.
Well, that's what McMahon does.
Hey, back up. Shane can be in frame.
He learned that from his daddy.
Oh yeah. Next up, we have the 3-on-1 handicap match versus Lars Sullivan and the Lucha House Party. The Lucha House Party would be under tag team rules, meaning in order for one of them to tag in, they literally have to do so. They can't be all three against once in the ring. So when they did do that, they got disqualified, ending up in the disqualification win for Lars Sullivan. And they ended up jumping him in the end, but still, Lars Sullivan stayed tall at the end. Let's see, let me go through these other matches before I say the best ones for last. We have Braun Strowman defeating Bobby Lashley and shutting him up. Simple as that. All right, here we go. We have the WWE Championship match. Kofi Kingston defending his title against Dolph Ziggler with Xavier Wood in his corner. And here's the ultimatum in the match. Dolph Ziggler would assault Xavier Woods, ultimately having him integrate himself, sorry if I said that wrong, in the match by kicking him outside the ring when he was bouncing against the ropes and running into a Trouble in Paradise buzzsaw kick, ultimately giving him, Kofi Kingston, the win. But it was rightfully deserved, I'll say that much. Kofi Kingston didn't do that intentionally. He did that. He screwed himself over when he attacked Xavier Woods. Next up, we have the WWE, I'm about to say championship, Universal Championship, Seth freaking Rollins against the dreaded Baron Corbin. Ultimately, messing with the dang gone referee the whole time, telling him how to do his job. The referee gets upset, startles Baron Corbin to get rolled over, and 1, 2, 3. Not a speed count either. That was a straight up regular 1, 2, 3 by the ref, and it would be ultimated by both of those matches that both Baron Corbin and Dolph Ziggler will get a rematch at Stomping Ground.
Much as I do hate Baron Corbin, but I do like his theme music.
Okay, I think that's it for that. I got the rest too. But before I mention these two dream matches, we gotta also mention the fact that what came after. And that would be the fact that Brock Lesnar came in, beating up Seth Rollins, about to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase before Seth Rollins got one hell of a break. Here comes Paul Heyman on the ropes, ready to deliver the title. He tries to get in, but trips on the rope, similar to what Batista did at WrestleMania, but while holding the briefcase. That one moment where Brock Lesnar was distracted, Seth Rollins low-blowed and then continuously hit Brock Lesnar with that very same chair he had over and over and over, I would say about good 7 or 10 times before he actually... Well, actually, let me mention this part where Brock Lesnar, the whole time he was being hit, was crawling towards his Money in the briefcase just to hold on to it, signifying that he didn't cash in the Money in the briefcase properly because the bell never rang. So he still is the beast in the bank. And then he gets curb stomped with his face on the briefcase. There you go. I love that. That was good. Finally, we have the last 3 matches would be the 50-man Battle Royale, once known as the greatest Royal Rumble, now officially not known as a Royal Rumble at all. We would have every single person, including some of the people who would have their music played to show stardom, including Elias. I'm trying to remember everybody's name. Tony Nese, Cesaro of all people, which is weird. Not Tony Nese. Titus O'Neil. I said Tony Nese.
Was my boy on there? Was my boys on there?
Which ones?
Glorious.
Yep, he was in there. So was Matt Hardy. And here's some fact that I was surprised to see. A man who has not got any airtime and is in new gear that I am proud to say still in WWE, Sin Cara. As well as another familiar face that we thought he had already left from what we heard on YouTube. He has not. He participated last week in this 50-man Battle Royale. Shinsuke Nakamura. He was participating.
He's still thinking about it that they don't pay him enough money or use him right.
We had many people, including the new haircut of what's that guy who was with Kurt Angle's son and Robert Roode as a tag team partner.
Chad Gable.
There you go. He chopped it all off. He got a new look. More info on him later to come. In which case, all of this considered, why did they actually showcase Cesaro and Titus O'Neil? I'll tell you. Cesaro, I have nothing to say, but Titus O'Neil, because of last year's, he had the Titus World Slide. He did not slide this time, but he did hide under the ring, surprisingly. Didn't win.
That's funny. That's the funniest thing they ever seen WWE.
Yeah. The last 2 people who would be in the ring would be none other than NXT hometown of that very city is with 30 members of his family in the audience. Mansoor, literally still a rising star in NXT, but now his name just went skyrocket after he eliminated second to last Elias, who was bragging at the beginning of the show and got jumped by everybody, saying he was going to win and that nobody could contend with him.
We were laughing about that.
Yeah. Also, that's another reason why I forgot. The reason why all these people had their own entrance while everybody else just came in with the Super Showdown entrance music was because Elias said all of their names just for his little song.
He's trying to get noticed.
He got noticed by getting eliminated.
Elias, you suck, man. The one person I think who does better playing guitar is Jeff Jarrett. And The Rock.
There you go. Almost hit that 9-minute mark. So these are the last 2 matches. Let's go ahead and run it. We got the King of Kings, the Cerebral Assassin, the Creator and Destroyer. We have The Game, Triple H versus the Legend Killer, the Apex Predator, Viper. There you go, Randy Orton, Mr. RKO himself. And it would end with Randy Orton defeating Triple H. And they pulled off every move, including the so-called banned move, the punt kick. Triple H caught it, and it didn't matter in the end because Randy Orton got that RKO out of nowhere and pinned the King of Kings.
His mentor.
Mm-hmm. And he said previously on Monday night that it wouldn't be him. Well, Randy proved him wrong. Does this mean that Randy Orton is going to stay in WWE and potentially get a WWE title shot with Kofi Kingston or whoever holds it?
I hope so.
I hope so too. He is, how many times? 13 or 14 times? 13 times. Yeah. Let's hope he can match it with John Cena and Ric Flair as 16 times and surpass Triple H's 14 reign, right? There you go. Let's see. Let's go. Finally, we have a very epic, but in the end, disappointing match because The Undertaker versus Goldberg was put into question. Goldberg, when he was coming out the ring, I don't know if anybody else noted this. I actually went back to watch the match because we kind of skimmed through it because Xavier said he wanted to skim through it, so I did.
Yeah.
Fun fact. Goldberg was already bleeding on his way to the arena. What the hell? Did he bang his head on the door when they knocked? Because I've been hearing that. When he was on Monday Night Raw, he made a big noise. Gah!
Yeah.
And he did it again. I'm like, did he bang his head on a door or something to get himself hype?
That's not the first time I've seen him done it. He went to that in WCW where he hit his head and his head was bleeding back ahead.
And it didn't work because at the kickoff of that match, Goldberg hit Undertaker with not one but 2 spears and didn't get him done. He got sit up, and it would then get bad to worse when Goldberg speared the buckle and he was bleeding buckets. After that, another spear would be applied by to the Undertaker, but then he tries to go for his, I thought it was a brainbuster or gut wrench. What was it called? Besides the spear, what's his other move?
The jackhammer.
The jackhammer. He couldn't even do it right. It looked more like a suplex. So at that point, I wouldn't be surprised there was actual talk between the two while everybody was screaming. Only they could hear each other between the ref as well, saying that something's wrong. I don't feel good. And they ended the match with a choke slam of all things instead of a tombstone pile driver.
You know what it was? People were, the fans were laughing at that match because
I didn't hear them laughing the whole time.
They won't.
I watched the whole match from the beginning with the headphones. I didn't hear laughing.
Oh, believe me, but they won't tell you. You read it on social media.
The fans were screaming in Saudi Arabia.
And there's nothing that they're saying. Undertaker, how he stand. Goldberg was feeling weak.
And that's another thing I want to mention. After Friday, on Saturday morning, I actually got information that I shared with my boys from Google News saying that Goldberg collapsed after the show.
That's what I was saying.
Just like Undertaker with Brock Lesnar already, again.
See, I said.
But this time, Undertaker actually stood tall. I would imagine.
Yeah, you see, like I said, Goldberg was feeling weak. That's why he collapsed.
When I heard that info, I was like, damn it, I haven't even watched it yet. Damn.
And here's the thing, but a fan posted this on social media. He said WWE needs to stop doing that. Stop bringing Undertaker to wrestle in their matches.
Yeah, you said more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me.
Because people don't want to. Writers agree with that, and so does some of the stars. Because Undertaker's getting old, he needs to stay at home and retire.
So old wrestlers need to retire, and if they're not able to wrestle, then they're not able to wrestle.
If you're in your 50s, you have to stay home and retire. But when you're in your 40s, yeah, you can come.
Some people are still wrestling in their 60s. Can you believe that?
Ric Flair did that. But here's the thing: he didn't wrestle longer than these stars they got right now.
A side note from that, we also have the fact that no women's matches were made in that whole event.
It's a dangerous place for a woman to wrestle.
Yeah, a lot of sexists out there. Religious police, as they call it, thanks to Gabriel Iglesias, aka Fluffy. So, with that said, also I want to give a shout out to our fellow Heaven Monsters podcast members. A shout out to Xavier Hill and Mike Henry. A link to their YouTube pages, accounts will be in the description down below, as always. And a remaining shout out to Renee Farrow, Andre, Chris Petrie, and Delvin. So with that said, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Hit that subscribe button, like the content, and hit that notification bell for the next Heaven and Monsters podcast when we cover Raw and SmackDown. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.